Hi guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome back to Upside Down Books, and more importantly, welcome to my December TBR.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno.
Now, if you've been here for a while, you know the drill, you know how this works. This is me getting through all the books that I got gifted for Christmas in the last year, so 2021. It's now 2022, and we're going to be trying to catch up on everything that I did not get around to reading throughout the year. This has been a particularly bad year because I stopped doing my TBR jars, one of which is a presents TBR jar to help me try and get through it. And because I haven't been doing that, I've been lacking the structure to tackle this particular challenge because I've been dealing with other things and trying to get other parts of my reading on track. So that means that this December we are left with a hot mess. This is by no means going to be a realistic TBR. It is literally most of the books that I got last year, which is pretty shocking. I think I only read 2 books. And I think I read them in January as well, are books that I got given for Christmas last year, and then I just haven't really got around to them. My reading this year has been really great in the volume that I've read, but I think when I've recognised how much I've been reading and still not getting to my books, that's when I sort of rejigged a few things to try and get things recalibrated into the path that I want it to be on. But yeah, so we're hoping that like this time next year this is not going to be such a thing. I'm also thinking I'm going to be changing this challenge around. So usually I do this for my birthday haul and for Christmas, which means that in April and in November I read all the books from the previous one to try and get through them before I get the next round sort of thing. But I'm actually thinking I'm going to flip it and prioritize it so that it's the month immediately after rather than 11 months later that I'm reading through it. So I'm thinking this will be a double whammy, that this December I will be reading through last December's books, but once I get my books for Christmas this year, if I get any, then in January I will make that my challenge to go through all the books that I got. When they're fresh in my mind, I'm freshly excited about them, and it gives me like a head start into the year, and then if I really wanted to in December I could do it again. So I think that might be the way to go about it. So just as a heads up, that's probably what we're going to be looking at in January. But for now, I say let's crack on into it. I'll run through all the books that are there, and then we will talk about some strategies for trying to get through as many of them as I possibly can. I will be working in December. I work full-time, so I will be working through until the Christmas period. I've got that nice little week between Christmas and New Year's off, which will be exciting. But other than that, this will be just fitting in outside of work. So the first one I have is the Zookeeper of Belfast. This is by S. Kirk Walsh. I've been really keen to pick this one up. I have a real thing about animals. You know from all my non-fiction reading that I do that I'm obsessed with like David Attenborough, just learning about stuff, and I love zoos. So the idea of marrying something I really love with an era I really like reading about has me really excited. I have seen the film, I think it's The Zookeeper's Wife, where they talk about like what happened to zoos when things were bombed. So I'm really excited to look at a different zoo because this is a different story. It's not that story. And this one is obviously set in World War II. It is set in Belfast, which is in Northern Ireland. And I presume it will be about, by the looks of it, a female zookeeper. And I guess the elephant during that time. I have read the blurb before, but I kind of don't want to refresh my mind. The book is small, the font is reasonably large, so I'm hoping that this will be something that will be easy to go through. It's also been blurbed, endorsed by Christina Baker Klein, who is an historical fiction author that I very much so respect and enjoy her books. So I am really looking forward to this one, and I hope that this one does make it on the cut for this TBR. The next one is the Bone Criers Moon, and this one's by Catherine Purdy. I need to see if I can remember who they're all from. So I think the Zookeeper of Belfast was from my mum. This one is from my uncle. I've heard really great things about this one. It's a YA fantasy. It's a bit on the chunky side. It's just over 430 pages. So as long as this is fast-paced, then I think we're in for a good time. I've been really enjoying like the afterlife and necromancy and those kind of things and witches in my reading lately, and this is sort of continuing that vibe with the spirits of the dead and 2 people that I guess are going to have magic. There's gods demanding sacrifices, someone who, like the main character, she's destined to become the matriarch of the Bone Criers, so like I'm pretty keen for this one. I'm hoping that there's like the Bone Witch and Gideon the Ninth vibes going on inside. The next one was gifted to me by my friend Sarah, and that is The Kind of Poison by Natalie May, and I've heard really great things about this one, and it's really short, so I think this would be a great one to just tick off over a weekend. I've been trying some new reading tactics where I'm setting aside like little bunches of 3 hours throughout the week when I get them for undisturbed reading. So maybe this could be a candidate for that little reading stint to try and polish off all or half of it or something like that. It's about a girl who loves adventure and she's able to commune with animals, and honestly, I don't need to know more than that. Right, the next one is one I have been so excited for and I'm really disappointed that I haven't read. I've been thinking about it constantly the whole way through the year, and that is The Brilliant Death, which is something that Chris gave to me. This one, I remember when it was coming up to its release, I just thought it sounded really, really exciting. It's got Italian sort of inspiration, and again, we've got magic, and the main character is able to transform his enemies into music boxes and mirrors. And I just think that that's really random and exciting, and I feel like there might be some sort of mafia vibe going on, maybe, I'm not sure. And a girl who has to transform into a boy to like save her family. So just all the good tropes that we love in a YA fantasy novel with a beautiful cover. So if I don't get to this one in December, I may cry. The next one is one from my sister, and that is Letters from Berlin by Tanya Blanchard. And I have read one book by Tanya Blanchard before, and I really like her sort of soft historical fiction, but set in the era that I like. This one is obviously in Berlin in World War II, and it's set in 1943. So the main character is 18 years old, and she lives with an adopted family, and her family are at risk. And I think to help her family, she has to accept the help of a Nazi elite and sort of has to say goodbye to all of her hopes and dreams because her life is on a different course now. So I'm really keen to read this one. I thought that her other book, which was set in Italy, whose name currently escapes me, was very good, so I have high expectations for this one. It is over 400 pages to read, so I do think that this might take me a little bit longer to read than some of the others will. The next one, I am so curious as to whether this will be slow or fast-paced, and that is The Paris Architect by Charles Belfort. I'm really keen to read more of this author's writing. I really like settings that he writes in, and again, we are in 1942, World War II, and this time in Paris. And this one I think is really, really interesting. I'm going to read you the blurb for this one. So, architect Lucien Bernard accepts a commission that will bring him huge wealth and maybe a death sentence. He has to design a secret hiding place for a wealthy Jewish man, a space so invisible that even the most determined of Nazi soldiers won't discover it. When one of Lucien's other designs fails horribly, the problem of hiding a Jew becomes personal, and he can no longer deny the enormity of his project. What does he owe his fellow man, and how far will he go to make it right? I just think that sounds fabulous. It's got like Anne Frank vibes and like, I don't know, Schindler's List sort of things going on. So I'm really excited to read this. I hope it's quite like a easy read. I for some reason I've been nervous that it might be quite highbrow literary and therefore slower to go through, but I'm so keen to read it, and I really like the cover. I think it's really interesting. So hopefully we can say this is done by the end of December. The next one is another one from my sister, and that is Aurora Rising by Lauren James. This is a dystopian novel with a very shiny cover, and again, I've heard lots of good things about this one. I think this will be an easy breezy read, and it's sort of like an eco-thriller. I think it's, I want to say there's a bit of Triffid things going on, or maybe not. Maybe the tree is just giving me the wrong vibe. It is about climate change and Earth being uninhabitable. Oh, that's right, and children suddenly start developing the power to grow plants from their skin, and I'm so curious how that is going to come into play as a plot device, because it certainly sounds strange, but it is just about 350 pages with reasonably sized fonts, so I'm hoping again that this could be quite a pacey, maybe even one sitting read, though I'm probably being ambitious and should say 3-sitting read. Next one, many people will be relieved to see is on my TBR and that I might actually read, and is from Sarah again, and that is Aurora Rising by the ones and onlys Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I have yet to read something by both of these. I have read independently work that they've done and enjoyed to varying levels, so I'm very, very curious to read this one. I know that there is so much love and hype for the Aurora Rising trilogy, and I really want to get in on it, and I really want to read some of Amy and Jay's works because they're so famous and popular. So this is science fiction. I love some YA science fiction, particularly when it's done well. This has huge font and it's got some illustrations throughout it, or diagrams, I guess. So I'm expecting this to be like a really, really easy read, providing the story is good. The only time I can have downfalls with YA sci-fi is when it's like oversimplified and becomes like silly. So I do like a bit of I mean, look, Andy Weir has set the bar high and we all know I have great love and respect for him. So let's just hope that this holds up. I'm nervous and excited all at once. The next one I think is going to be a really lovely read and was from my mum, and it's The Last Bookshop in London by Madeline Martin. I've seen this like everywhere throughout the year, just advertised when other historical things come out and get advertised. It's set in 1939 in London, and I don't know what the librarian's doing. Is this the one where they're a spy? Okay, so this one I think is all about like the power of literature and sort of a quiet, lovely novel about how you keep alive things during hard times such as war. So I'm expecting this to be really beautiful and a nice book for a book lover to read. It's very skinny, it's a very short read, and the font's quite large. Like, this is under 300 pages, so I wonder if this might be the starting book. Maybe this is a good one to kick us off with. Something easy, compelling, just generally kind of heartwarming and heartbreaking all at once. Like, maybe this is the one. The next one is another one from my uncle, and it is Darkrise by C.S. Pacat. I have not read anything by this author yet, and I really want to. I really wanted to pick this up way earlier in the year. This is another book that's just been turning over in the back of my mind throughout the year. And again, I think it's science fiction. Like, it gives sci-fi vibes, doesn't it? It's probably not. This is about a main character who has sworn to protect humanity if the Dark King ever returns. So the tagline for this is, "The dark will rise, who will fall and who will stand?" We've got stewards who for centuries have kept vigil. They're protecting humanity in case the Dark King ever returns. Then the main character, I presume, is this 16-year-old boy who's in London. Oh, it's set in the real world, that's unexpected. And he's being pursued by people who've killed his mother. Then a servant urges him to seek out the stewards, and he gets ushered into the secret magic world in London. This sounds very interesting. Okay, so it's literally like the light and dark are fighting against each other. And then it seems that the Dark King's return is looming. I don't know whether our main character is going to be like the Dark King or if he's going to fight him off. Who knows? Again, this actually has like medium-sized font considering the size of the book, and it is 450 pages. So I think this will be a bit of a chunky read to bite my teeth into, but I think it will be very, very good. It certainly sounds right up my alley. I love the idea of like a bit of a lost soul. It's like kind of Aragon-esque, isn't it? You got this young kid thrust into the limelight and then this good and evil battle going on. So basically, if this isn't as good as Aragon, I'm going to be disappointed. So that's a really high expectation I've just set, but is the book up to it? That's the challenge I set it. The next one is one I've been threatening to read all year, but just never quite getting around to on my TBR, and that is Anything But Fine by Tobias Madden. This was given to me by my sister, and everything about this I love. This would be a great one to start with. Maybe this one and then The Last Bookshop. It is a gay romance, and it is about ballet, and it is about having an injury that puts you out of action. Don't need to know more, don't want to know more. I just know that everyone has loved it and everyone is so excited for everything that Tobias Madden is bringing out going forwards. Like, for a short romance that is like, what, 300 pages, 330 pages? I think this is what we start with. The next one intimidates me. I would like to get around to it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't happen just because it looks big, but it sounds so good. And that is Daughters of War by Diana Jeffries. Now this one is set in France, follows 3 characters, and we've got like enemies knocking on the door for help. Oh, the font is huge though, so maybe this would be a quick read. It is 540 pages though, like it's a pretty hefty book, but it really reminds me of The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which is like one of my all-time favourite books, so I'm really hoping that that's what we're going to get coming out of it. It's the first time I'll be reading anything by Diana Jeffries, Dinah Jeffries, and I don't know, France 1944, great setting, great country to set. It's so much tension, so much is happening at that point in history in that country with World War II, so we will see. I'll be very curious to see what I make of it if I do get to it. The next one is another one given to me by Chris, and it's The Eighth Wonder by Tanya Farrelly. I've not read anything by Tanya Farrelly before, and I think this sounds really interesting, particularly because I have recently read The Night Circus, and this is about circuses, so like my interest in circus is very high right now. But this one is set in New York in 1897. Again, what a lovely setting. I love it. It's a very sort of happening era to set a book in, and this one's about a girl who, I want to say, runs away to the circus, if I want to really narrow it down here. In fact, I'm not sure I want to know more than that. She definitely is meant to be in high society, but for some reason gets involved with the circus. I think it's going to be really interesting. Circuses always just have the most interesting settings. So fingers crossed that this one's good. It's just over 400 pages and it's pretty big font, so medium to fast read is my prediction. The next one I know will be a quick read, and this again is from, I think, from my sister, but I can't quite remember, and that's Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. I read a bunch of, two of Bridget Kemmerer's books earlier in the year. I finished off her other series, and then this is the next thing that came out. I think this one is sci-fi. I'm so hopeful for sci-fi, and then they always end up being fantasy. Okay, no, I think this is just fantasy. There's a kingdom where a sickness stalks the streets and only the richest can afford the cure. Sold. Love it. But give me the drama. That's great. So I know Bridget Kemmerer writes really well, really easy to read, and like a really easy author to marathon. So maybe this will be a pick-me-up midway through December to try and tick me up a few books. We will see. But I know I'm going to love this one. This is just like a given. Like, I'm pretty sure. It's probably famous last words. 2 more books to get through. The next one is from either my mother or my sister, and that is Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. I have been wanting to read this for years. Now, this is a big one, and it has small font. This one is about 500 pages with really small font, so we're feeling a little bit nervous as to how easy this will be to get through, but I know it's going to be really good. Again, World War II. I'm going to give you a vote at the end, and you can all see if you can guess which era is my favourite to read about. But this one's 1939, and it is in New York, I think. So it's about the real life story of a New York socialite who championed a group of concentration camp survivors known as the Rabbits. That's right, I remember what this is about now. I think this will be a really lovely and heartwarming story, and I'm really excited to read it, but I am terrified by how many words there are in this book. I won't lie, I am a little bit intimidated, but we are going to be hopeful, we're going to keep our minds open, and I do think that I'm going to love it when I read it. Like, I am expecting no less than 5 stars for this one. And the last book is one I'm very excited about. I'm very surprised that I haven't read it yet, and it's The Spies Wife by Fiona McIntosh, the one and only love of my life. I don't know why I haven't read this yet. This was from my uncle as well. I'm honestly pretty disappointed with myself. This one and The Brilliant Death, very disappointed that that didn't happen throughout the year. But I know that this will be great. This will be easy. This won't be too bad to read. It's 400 pages. The font's just sort of average size, but Fiona McIntosh has such a delightfully easy way of writing that you just breeze through. And I know it's going to be good. So this one, again, World War II in Germany, judge me not. And it's about, I don't know, a spy on a train going somewhere. That's my prediction. I don't know if I've ever read the blurb. All I need to know is that Fiona McIntosh wrote something during World War II and the main character is female, and I will buy the book, which is basically the precursor to any of her books, to be fair. Right, so these are all of just the small, very moderate pile of books that I have to read in December. I'm not actually expecting to get through all of these, but goodness, if I did, that would be very exciting. All up, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We have 16 books. I've never read that much in one book in 1 month in my life. But you know, we will always remain optimistic around Christmas time. I am very excited to read these, and I have got statistics up on a spreadsheet to have me work out how many hours it will take me to read by estimated word count. And I think we should have a quick look at that before I sign off. Right, so I'm just having a look, and I've got the screen up here for you guys looking at what I got last year. So you can see that the 2 books I've read was A Dead End Job, which was given to me by Chris, and Inheritance Games, which was given to me by my sister. Everything else is left unread. And what I've got here is I've got the page count in this column, the average rating when I logged it. These will definitely be different now because this is like a year old. And then I've worked out the hours to read it. So I've worked this out, I think just on I think I've just worked it out on a standard formula. Usually, so I've averaged it out. You can see I've gone 12 lines, 12 words per line and 35 lines per page. And then I've done that divided by my reading speed of 400 words per minute and then divided by 60, blah, 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 a lot of maths. Basically, it gives me my hours that it will take me to read. So we can see that the biggest one is Daughters of War. So rightly so, a little bit intimidated by it. But if we were to look at what would be the shortest to read, let's have a little sort, shall we? Let's sort the range by hours to read. So there we go, the Last Bookshop. Oh, look at that, my predictions are coming true. The Last Bookshop in London and Anything But Fine are coming in as the shortest reads per hour. So I may very well follow this and go by, if I want to be strategic, I could go by what's the shortest amount of time to read just as a general estimation. Though in other years I have also gone by average ratings. You can see that some of these are pretty low. But I'm not a big fan of doing that. It just means I end up always only reading like the most popular books. So I might try it this way, but I think I will also just generally go by what I feel like reading. So anyway, that is what my December TBR is looking like. It is absolutely insane. So let me know in the comments down below if you think I should start with something different, if there's some I should bump up, or just generally have a guess at how many you think I'm going to get through. I think it would be lovely if I got through 8 of these, but it's going to be a big effort. We're going to try our best, but who knows what will happen. So other than that, I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.